Okay, we're opening the meeting of the Ames Historic Preservation Commission, May 9th. We'll be doing the call to order. And the first item on the agenda will be the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Third item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I have a,
Comment?
are you opening discussion?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not sure, but I'm wondering if the last sentence in the staff comments, which was right above the signature, it says Ames Historical Meeting, I think. I wondered if that was meant to be museum.
But you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Duly noted.
I think that's correct. Should be museum.
Yeah.
Actually, if I use the abbreviation AHM, so maybe you did, and then when you got to it, so.
Any further comments? Move to approve the agenda as amended? Minutes as agenda.
Also move.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
All right. Fourth item on the agenda is the public forum announcement. This time is set aside for public comments on topics that would be of concern to the Historic Preservation Commission, other than those that may be on this agenda. The chairperson may limit each speaker to 5 minutes. Please understand that the commission is not likely to take any action on comments at this meeting due to requirements of the open meeting law, but may do so at the future meeting. And it appears to be no one here for public comment, so we'll move on to item number 5. Amendment to the Downtown Facade Grant Program regarding eligibility for the rehabilitation of historically significant character defining features. And I'll turn this to staff who probably have comments.
Yes, good evening. This is my first time before you all, so I'm Benjamin Campbell, planner here with the city. I've been here 2.5 years or so now. And I administer the Downtown Facade Grant Program, which is why I am the one who is presenting on this for you this evening. So just a little bit of background first, the Downtown Facade Program, and up on the map here you can see the area that's hatched is the area that is eligible to apply for the grant. The program was introduced in 2000 to facilitate private improvements to downtown retail and other commercial storefronts. The council annually budgets $50,000 as matching funds for eligible projects. The program allows for up to $15,000 of dollar-for-dollar matching funds per front facade and up to $1,000 for additional architectural service. The program requires compliance with the adopted downtown design guidelines, which can be found on our website, and there was a link to it in the report as well. The program requirements include prerequisite of a ground floor use of office or retail, and grant eligibility includes a requirement for proposed improvements to retain the historic facade or for the removal of non-compliant elements consistent with the guidelines. Downtown Ames was, you probably all know, but the many of the commercial facades downtown once had various accretions and other changes to them. A good example of one that is still existing would be the Great Plains pizza place. That still has a lot of filler in the original opening for the commercial storefront. The program does not allow for maintenance activities or replacement of compliant elements with new in-kind elements as eligible activities on their own. Proposed improvements are intended to have a significant positive visual impact on the building and the overall district. And there are 2 rounds of funding, so we open it up in late summer, early fall, and then again in the spring. And we have a grant that's actually going tomorrow to council for the windows on the 2nd level of the Pantorium. Staff regularly hears from property owners about including a variety of work within the scope that relates to historic features. Often this work is viewed as maintenance and is not eligible for the grant. As a result of the recent, the National Register of the downtown district on the National Register of Historic Places, staff recommended that council consider some changes to the facade program that would help maintain the integrity of existing character-defining features. Council gave direction to proceed with amending the program to include eligibility for the rehabilitation of these historically significant character-defining features within the downtown facade program. And the category of facade improvement for historic rehabilitation is proposed to include the repair of something like original windows, including the transom prism glass windows that you might see on, say, the Octagon building and the building immediately adjacent to it, and distinctive features such as an elaborate cornice. The key in crafting this category is to distinguish between regular maintenance of a building, so something like tuck pointing or ordinary repair of windows that are, or other features that are there, to those that enhance the visual appeal of downtown. At a minimum, we want to ensure not to incentivize the replacement of character-defining features when approving other facade treatments. Identifying character-defining features will be determined on a project-by-project basis and will likely rely on the site sheets used for the Downtown National Register District. It will be important to consider the historic context of the district as well, and only buildings identified as contributing would be eligible for this category of additional grant. Staff does propose to alter the eligibility criteria to allow for rehab of a feature on its own without making other improvements consistent with the guidelines. This represents a change to the facade program, as its primary goal is to improve facades consistent with the guidelines and additional, opening them up and making them better, like you would see in removing some of the additional elements that have been added on. Details of this concept may require that the facades already be compliant with the guidelines to ensure basic intent of the program is met and that it is not viewed as an enhanced maintenance program. And so what we're asking of you all tonight is feedback on this idea. We don't have specifics of the proposed language yet, but just big picture. If you think there's specific language or terms that we should include in this modification to the program that could guide the changes.
Could we get a copy of the document? Can we review the document a draft when it's completed?
When it's I don't know. I don't want to make promises without talking to Kelly first. I'm not sure what he has in mind. But we can definitely keep the commission updated of
Right. Well, if you want our help with wording and technical terms, I think we need to see what the wording is on the changes. So if we could have that when it's ready.
And I had just a question that might be just a clarification question. On the second page where you were reading the third full paragraph, you talk about relying on the site sheets. And then the origin of my question was wondering whether those character-defining features had already been included in some sort of nomination process or whatever. Are there already features that you're aware of? Or would they just be any features that happen to fit somehow?
It wouldn't just be anything. I mean, one of the things that we were looking at specifically was prism glass transom windows, just because they are expensive to repair. I know specifically not on the Octagon building, but on the two-story building that's immediately adjacent with it that kind of shares a unified facade. It was going to be 3 times the cost of, to take out the prism glass windows and put in just, insulated sheet glass. There was going to be a third of what it would cost to repair and maintain those windows, because it's labor-intensive work.
So this isn't necessarily a feature that's already been documented somehow.
Not necessarily. That's something that's been identified as endangered or something that's worthy of preserving specifically, but just that we would rely on those site sheets to help guide our understanding of what was eligible.
Thank you.
I have a question on the grant for the Pentorium building.
Yeah.
Is that, it's for second story windows?
Yeah, the middle window, it originally had 5 windows, 1/1 sash windows, and at some point I don't know what the internal configuration is. I don't know if the second story was split into 2 spaces, but there is there are 6 windows there now. There are 4 windows that are roughly the size that they originally were, and then in the middle there are 2 very skinny windows and a vertical element that's right there, kind of right where the Pentorium sign is. And so the proposal is to remove the 6 windows and replace them with 5 that will match the original size.
Any further comments at this time? Now, you say you're taking this to council tomorrow?
No, not
Oh,
tomorrow. No.
okay.
Yeah, we don't have the specific language worked out yet. We were just hoping to get feedback or recommendation from the HBC on the proposed changes.
Okay. Well, at this time, does any need more?
Do you want us to vote on one of those alternatives on page 3? Is that what you're looking for?
Please.
Recommendation, we can make recommendation, right?
Yes.
So at this time, we need a recommendation, whether the council modifies the downtown facade grant program to include historic significant character defining features, or recommend that the council modify the grant program in some other way, or we recommend that the council maintain the facade grant program as is. Is there a motion someone like to make?
I would make a motion that we approve alternative 1.
Okay,
I'll second the motion.
all those in favor?
Do you want to have discussion first?
Nope.
Do we have a
Nope.
discussion? Do you have comment that you'd like to add about alternative 1?
Well, yeah, I definitely support it. I would, again, I'd like to see any wording that goes into the guidelines for the grant, if possible, before the city council. It goes to city council. But yeah, I mean, I support it. It's definitely an improvement to help preserve significant features. So I'm thinking there might be some additional guidelines, though, that I just, without studying it a little more, I'm not, I just don't have any further comments. So.
I'm aware that it's vague. Yes. And that I'm not giving you anything more specific. And initial phases were just kind of looking for general feedback. Yeah. If you've got any
Okay.
ideas about, I recognize that there's not something concrete to review and,
So it sounds like the council gave direction to include the historic significant character. And it sounds like that one of the things that they might look at is some of the application for the Main Street project for buildings that are considered contributing and things like that.
Mhm.
So those features would stand out, obviously, as ones that would be eligible. And then, but there, it looks like it's open enough that if there are other characteristics that would be determined to be contributing, it would be worthwhile for them to examine those as well as applicants, if somebody brought something forward, right? As long as they meet the other eligibility requirements.
yeah. And the program as it is that part of it wouldn't change. This would just be an additional
Layer of,
Yeah. And we've discussed as well, having it just as a standalone way to apply for a grant as well. So you wouldn't necessarily need to, be concurrent with another application.
Right.
It might be something that you've already had a grant. For instance, the the two-story building adjacent to the Octagon that's kind of part of that same facade.
Right,
That building was awarded a grant
right.
recently to do.
So
some
it's not
fairly minor
contingent
things.
upon them having another grant in order to, they can, like you said, it would be a standalone. So
That's something we've discussed. I mean, if you all have an opinion on that, you're welcome to, give that or put that in a motion or a recommendation as well.
But it sounds like it's already in your preliminary consideration, right?
Correct. It is
Okay.
it's part of the consideration.
Okay.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Is the facade grant program federal funds or is it all local or
It-
state?
It is all local funds. Yeah.
It's all
There
local.
are additional other grant programs. We've got some links to them on our website as well that for state grants. I don't know. I'm not aware off the top of my head of any specific federal ones, but there are definitely other historic preservation state level grants. And I do know that a number of projects, the one that comes to mind is the Avec building at the corner of Douglas and Main that has taken advantage of some of those other funding sources.
Okay, thank you.
So will this be something like a certificate of appropriateness that if someone does make an application to do some work on a structure, would that be something else that we would also see something like that come forward?
We only do the certificate of appropriateness for local districts. And that's part of the adopted Chapter 31 requirements. So I know that's some of your discussion with Chapter
Right,
31.
right.
But there hasn't been a directive from the council or typically with the National Historic Districts. So that's why we also have local districts.
Exactly,
If the city
exactly.
wants to adopt a local district, then that's when you lead into the certificate of appropriateness.
Exactly. So this would be handled completely by the facade committee, right? The people who review it.
By the council is ultimately
Council,
the ones
exactly.
that they ultimately approve everything.
Right.
Dispersal of
Exactly.
grants.
Okay.
I believe that the only building in that district, in the downtown facade grant area that is locally historically designated is the old city hall, right?
Mhm.
That's the only one that would require any kind of certificate of
It's a
appropriateness.
landmark.
That's a
Right.
local landmark.
Exactly. Okay. Any further discussion?
I have one more question. This
Sure.
might be wrapped up in the question you just had.
Mm-hmm.
The language in here suggests that this is not to be viewed as an enhanced maintenance program.
Mhm.
At what point does that hurdle get jumped? Is that at what you just mentioned or the council, or who determines historic significance? Is that your office, or is it based on the national guidelines? Or
I mean,
like,
probably.
I understand the prism glass is a
Yeah.
historic, it's a thing, but
Yeah, I mean, it would be a combination of both. We wouldn't. I don't think the direction from council was not to pay for. I'm trying to think something like tuck pointing or putting a new roof on the building or anything like that. We didn't want to limit it specifically to just prism glass transoms or there's some buildings that have elaborate cornices. That's sometimes something that there are examples downtown where those have come off over the years. But I suppose if there were another feature, I can't think of one specifically that was really stood out on a specific building that we could consider.
If it had materials or something that might have been part of the original facade or something that.
Yeah, something that's original, maybe a really distinctive original door or something like that. We might consider it. If it were really stood out and it was deemed worthy of preservation because of what it contributes to Main Street.
that all makes sense. But I guess what I was asking is, where is that determination made? Just in the process somewhere, or?
I mean, staff would take the initial look at it and
Okay.
would probably make the ultimate determination of whether or not this is maintenance or if it's eligible for the grant.
Thanks.
Would any of this ever come back? I mean, if we wanted to find out the results of who all was getting facade improvements, who might be doing, some preliminary work, being that it's not considered a local district,
Mhm.
is that something that we would need to request then if we just wanted to find out the outcome of the awards?
Well, for example, Benjamin mentioned tomorrow night he's presenting
Right.
about the design facade grants for this round. So it's always goes to the city council. So if we know it's on the city council agenda, we can alert you. I mean, we
Okay,
would know, but we could alert you through an email that
That
it's
might
on
be,
the council. Or in this case, where it's tomorrow night, it's easy to tell you that.
right, exactly. No, I think that's something that we all would be very interested in as part of our, interest in the historic fabric of Ames. So, yes, please do keep us apprised. I don't know if that's necessarily part of the recommendation or,
I mean, that's kind of separate. We can keep you apprised of,
Exactly.
like Eloise said, just let you know this is coming up and
I
it's on
think
the
that would,
agenda.
I think that would be very helpful for us to know that. We're very interested in what's going on with our Main Street. So we had a motion and it was approved,
And
right?
I have one more comment.
Certainly. Go right ahead.
Would, yeah, I'm just wondering if the commission could assist city council and staff by, I know we have a lot of projects right now, but we could be responsible for identifying existing character defining features on the different buildings. If that would be useful for staff and for the council in approving the grant projects.
Yeah, I think the direction that I've been given is the site sheets specifically. I mean, do we think is there additional information that wouldn't be on the National Register site sheets? And those are typically pretty comprehensive.
That like the inventory forms, is that it
Really
outline
slow.
Yeah,
each building has a sheet that,
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that identifies why it's historic and what its special features
and it
are.
identifies that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and they're pretty. There's a document on each and every building that's in the district.
Okay,
That's considered contributing.
okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Any further? I'd say we've approved the alternative for recommendation number one.
We need a vote. We need to vote on it.
Do we need to vote?
Mhm.
Okay. Have we all said vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Ayes carried.
Thanks, Benjamin.
Okay, so our next agenda item is the review of the bylaws. And I'm thinking that's you, Eloise. Bring that forward.
I believe you have a copy of the bylaws. I think if you hopefully had a chance to look at them, they seem pretty typical as far as what they lay out. I know the last update, I believe, 2017. And I think at that time, that was when they changed the time of the meeting. It used to be at 7 o'clock. So I don't think there was anything other than that that was amended. I'm not going to go through it. I would just entertain any comments that anybody sees that they find might need to be updated or addressed.
Anybody have comments or recommendations or changes?
I do.
Mary Jo?
I would like to see something about commission members that don't attend several meetings in a row and don't contact whether or not they will be attending. I think if there's if they miss 3 meetings without contacting staff about whether or not they're going to be there. I think their term should be terminated.
Is that not already written somewhere? I could
No.
have swore I read that.
Section 8
No? Okay.
on meetings. It just is reviewed.
Unless it's
here.
in a general section of the code that it applies to advisory committees.
So let me ask to make sure I understood. If they miss 3 meetings and they have not contacted staff prior to the meeting to explain they're going to miss, they just don't show up, then they would and then would it be 3 consecutive or 3 during the year?
Total.
3 consecutive, I would say.
Eloise, do we give them a heads up, so to speak? I mean, if we haven't heard from them after a while, like if they've missed a couple meetings.
I think what would make sense is to convey your concern about that and ask if that's a language, something like this would be appropriate. And there may be some kind of language that another board has that could be
Incorporated.
brought in. So if this is the direction that you decide to recommend moving forward with, that's what I would do, is take it and see what the city clerk's office has to say and legal has to say, is to kind of, because there is a concern about how all the commissions are treated somewhat similarly,
Right.
and the way they go forward. And I don't know all of their bylaws to know how that's addressed. But
And obviously legal would definitely need to give input,
there
I'm
may
sure.
be some language that has been drafted that makes sense to implement.
Yeah, I think our having a quorum, we haven't had any certificate of appropriatenesses since I've been on the commission, but if we have to delay a meeting, it's that process takes enough time as it is. And I think we have to make sure we have members that are here, that we can get a quorum. So I think it's very important that, because last year we were without enough members to
We had
to meet a
cancel
quorum.
meeting, yeah.
So, and I like I say, it's just, if we start getting certificate of appropriatenesses, that it's really important that we get our monthly meeting in.
I know in the past when we've had that, it seems like they usually would put out a call to say, we have something that on the agenda that needs a vote, but we need to make sure we have the quorum. So everybody gets a heads up, or at least to acknowledge, whatever. And I think this last time was kind of unfortunate. It just, people were gone, so it just didn't happen. But on the other hand, I think if we go for more than 6 months without a staff member or another commission member, that's a pretty long drag, and it takes a bit to appoint a replacement. So I would definitely want to have some language that there's people understand that, if commitment needs to be, at least you're going to be here 2/3 of the time. There's opportunities that are situations where you have to bow out, but at least we could count on people for a certain number of meetings, at least, I think. So you don't off the top of your head always know of anybody, a commission that's got a stipulation in their meeting attendance?
I'm not aware of one, but I
Okay.
don't know.
That's fine. So maybe we could have you guys have a look and see what might be an appropriate thing to incorporate into ours. So that's a good one. Let me mark it off. Were there other comments or things that popped out to people that might improve our functioning? If not, I guess we'll need to vote, I guess, or make a motion to approve with an amendment to the attendance, depending on what staff can discover that might be appropriate for our commission to be able to have a
I think we would need to recommend
recommend.
that
That's it.
staff look into.
I would
what
like
would
to
be appropriate.
recommend. I definitely would like to.
Can't approve it just yet.
Yes.
Not actually voting on an
No.
amendment to the bylaws.
Well, right now,
yet.
it's like we don't know what's available. So
Right.
yes, we do want to recommend that staff have a look to see what might be appropriate for our commission to be able to have a little beefier attendance record. Do we need to move to recommend? No, I don't think so. I
No.
think we just can see what you guys can turn up, right? All right. So next item is our Chapter 31 review. And this time, we were going to review sections 1 through 6. I hope everybody had a chance to kind of preview it. It's kind of like the preliminary, setting the stage for the historic preservation ordinance. And Mary Jo, you had been able to go through with some of the comments that was helpful in focusing just on these sections. How do you want to do it? Do you want to just go through and each section and point out particulars? I don't know that we want to read exactly word for
Well,
word
I
on all of
think,
them.
yeah,
but-
I think that, assuming everybody's had a chance to look at the wording on the ordinance and the revisions, if there's any particular one that anybody wants to discuss, I've said before, I'm really trying to get the ordinance to be more user-friendly, more consistent in its wording, more accurate in some cases. And Eloise, I'd be interested too in staff comment, like Ray had a concern about substantive changes. And I want to know, I'd like to know what staff would consider as substantive changes. So, and I would like the discussion to include you as well with this, not just the commission, because
Okay.
you're the one that administers it. And so any questions or anything?
I had a question. On section 31.2,
Mhm.
and this will help me understand the first couple of pages in here too. There's a number 1 in parentheses, nothing after it. Is that part of a renumbering?
I think that's just a typo thing.
It was the way it was set up in the
Okay.
system, and when I made revisions, it sometimes didn't
So is that following,
change the numbering, so
so that following section, accessory building, is that supposed to be number 1?
I'd have to bring the thing. I think I had it at one point, but if you
I have an
look at the
extra
original.
copy. Does somebody need?
Because
an
that'll make
extra
everything
copy?
make sense for me.
okay,
It's one
well,
of those
I
things-
noticed
Yes.
all the numbers were one off.
Okay.
as
Yes.
we went through
Yeah.
it
Yes.
Because of that.
It was auto numbering.
That makes sense. Thank you.
yeah.
So
And I'm not very technically savvy, so I'm just kind of ignored that.
Actually, I was
So-
quite impressed with I actually couldn't put corrections in a document like that because my word
Yeah.
processing days are kind of
Yeah.
past.
I do. It's the whole chapter.
Thank you. Can I scribble on it?
I just have that one.
Oh, well then
No. I mean, I have one, but I don't have more than just one to share.
So I think if we could make copies of the sections we're going to do, so we all have a copy next time we do it, so we'll have,
I have it on my phone. But
you do, okay.
I read it on my, I
I've
read
got
it
Mike
online.
and, yeah, I
I made
had,
copies because I'm one of those people, even though I'm reading it on the
okay,
screen, I like to doodle on my.
yeah,
Notes.
I had no internet connection today, so I couldn't access.
But I
my
did notice
documents.
the things, and it's like, it's already it's already pre-formatted, so it's hard to
Mhm.
somebody else to come in. But on the definitions, there, I would say on the purpose one, where the language, where you added some language on section 1 on purpose, those were some clarifications and additions that seemed logical changes. Any more comments on the purpose section or the wordage? Okay,
And that's 31.3, right?
right, 31.3 purpose. Then it moves to the second section, which is one that we've often talked about with the
31.1.
31.1 is the purpose.
purpose, right? And then
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
the second section, 31.2, definitions. And that's where there were several recommendations about the definitions and things that we had talked about being in design guides versus the ordinance and things like that. And I think that might be one of the areas that maybe Ray was concerned about. Eloise, do you know, or?
I do have his comments, but why don't we just keep going through it?
Okay,
Each item, I think. 'cause I think
Okay.
it's good to hear. on
so
everything.
if we get down to 31.2, omitting the rules
Yeah, I
of
think,
construction.
yeah, that, I think the, most of the things that were omitted are rules of construction, and I don't know why it was structured that way rather than just definitions. Every other ordinance I've seen, they just have a definitions section. So I don't know where that comes from. But some of those.
Can I just interject on, in the zoning ordinance? Article 2 is rules of construction and definitions as a whole article.
Okay.
And then it has section, the first part is general rules of construction, and then there's a section on definitions. So I think probably that was the reason that's just
Probably.
typical that you have
Mhm.
rules of construction with your definitions, either as a separate subsection or together.
Mhm.
And whether it has to be that way, well, I don't know. But I think that was why it was done that way.
Yeah. Well, just, I know Ted had gone through too, and he was chair, and I know he was concerned about some of those, the words that are defined in there about them being necessary. And I think in some instances, I couldn't even find them in the ordinance anywhere. So I don't know what the purpose of defining something is. It's not actually anywhere in the ordinance.
So to clarify,
Mhm.
I know, for example, like mullion and mutton is in there, but was it the thinking that those are terms that could be, that are already defined well enough that we don't have to define them here?
Right.
And the same with the baluster and so forth, that
Balustrade.
Mhm.
it's not that, so they may be used in here, but what, for, even if they are used within the text of the chapter, you felt like it was ancillary to define them?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And that, the number 34, visibility triangle, I think that's must be something for zoning.
Right,
'Cause-
it's a typical thing that we look
So-
at, but it may not be.
Yeah, I don't think it
Necessary
would
here.
be appropriate because I think later on in the section on design review, certificate of appropriateness, I think at some point we need to add that the review applies to things that are visible from the public right of way. And I don't think that's in the current ordinance. So that, I think that's what the visibility triangle kind of is trying to say.
No,
No? Okay.
no, it's the intersection.
Oh, okay.
It means that at an intersection, you can't obstruct the view so that you won't be able
Okay.
to be able to see cars and people that are coming.
Okay. So that doesn't even
Without
apply.
obstruction.
That doesn't even
So I
apply to
don't know that
ours.
it,
Yeah, it's.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's other places in the
Places.
code that would cover that, so we don't have to cover it here.
Yeah. Okay.
So we had a question on number 10,
Mhm.
under the contributing historic resource. So it looks like there's two items. There's the contributing historic resource,
Mhm.
and then there's a contributing feature that's being defined also.
Mhm.
And we were not clear on what a non-architectural element would be that would establish the historic character of a site or district.
Well, sometimes that's landscaping, I think, isn't it?
Would be landscaping,
It's a broader.
hardscaping, landscaping, hardscaping. Uh, like a driveway entry would be a feature that maybe would be significant if it went to like a carriage house or something like that. Or, but also like trees, historic trees that are,
Plantings, things like that.
yeah.
I don't think right now we recognize those, right?
I don't think you
Mm.
do.
Mm-mm.
So are you proposing to recognize those? Or just wanting to set it up in case in the future we recognize it?
I think there are
It's-
opportunities that might
Yeah.
include those kinds of considerations.
If we were to do a district that followed, like, say, our survey, um, and there were features that were non-architectural that are identified in that survey, that we would, then that would apply then. It would be, it just establishes that it can be reviewed. It doesn't necessarily mean that, that it has to be reviewed, I guess.
Sometimes they'd be like, I don't know, if a stone retaining wall.
Yeah,
or
a
something
stone
like
retaining
that
wall,
might be
uh-huh.
something you might,
Yeah.
anything that, it's one of those things, you know it when you see it, but when it's gone, you're going, whoa, yeah. But it is, it basically allows for a opportunity to look at things other than just the structure that may be contributing to the character of the property. If there were a winding drive, you sure wouldn't want somebody paving in the straight thing, you know, if that would kind of really alter the look of the property.
I think what we would probably say on that is that's a very legitimate item, but until we've defined it in a district as being an element, then we don't need to have it in the definition. It's kind of like you're eliminating some things that you don't feel are necessary, but if we don't currently have any districts or landmarks that are oriented to those kind of a feature.
Mhm.
Well, one of the things that when we're doing this next survey, we're going to be very cognizant of some of these properties that might have this kind of a look to them that would be contributing.
Okay.
And this is one of the things that I think that we were noticing that seemed very restrictive in the way that the current Chapter 31 was very geared towards Old Town, and not necessarily every neighborhood would fall into that type of description. So while we're collecting comments and notes at this point to maybe present like
Right.
a full recommendation later, this might be one that we particularly keep our eye on, because we're anticipating actually maybe running into something like this with this next survey.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what your comment about it being something that we would need to have in the future is, I mean, I think it's a very near future that we need to
Okay.
have it, so.
Well, and maybe the way but you're not seeing that that would be a separate definition because it would be under contributing historic resource.
Right.
Right.
So
It
you
would
would
be a
have
contributing
Buildings
factor.
and structures, and then you would have features.
Maybe there are additional features that are not part of the structure per se.
Okay, that helps explain.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
On your design criteria,
Mm-hmm.
what was your thinking on that? Because it seemed like further in the chapter, it looked like you don't like the word design criteria. That sometimes
Right.
you strike the word design, or sometimes you strike both of those words. And it's not that you're getting rid of the criteria, but that you're getting rid of the term design criteria.
Right.
Is that
the-
right?
Yes, yeah, because design criteria is usually applied to some proposal that you're doing, whereas the way it's used in this, in chapter 31, it's the character defining features of those different styles that it outlines. So I think identification criteria more accurately depicts what the different styles are and their characteristics. They're not. I just think it's a better term for what is in the ordinance.
Okay.
I got a question. If we can go back one.
Mhm.
In number 10, as numbered, historic resource, there's also a definition for historic resource on the top of the next page, number 20.
Mm-hmm.
Number 20.
The insert,
Oh, yeah. How about
they're-
that?
different in emphasis.
Well, no, one is a contributing historic resource, and then the
Oh,
other
yeah,
is
yeah.
a historic resource.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
So on 22, on the definition match, I think putting that statement in parentheses just is clarification that I think that is a good addition just for explanation.
Expanding the definition of what
Mm-hmm.
is meant by match. What do you think, Eloise? Is that something to?
Ray did not comment on that. I should say that most of my comments are from Ray.
That's fine. That's all right.
I am the voice of Ray.
Okay.
Okay. Did we want to go back to design guidelines, number 13? Is that where you were adding? I think on here you were adding more information to clearly define
Yes.
guidelines.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, is that?
Just to give more information on what design guidelines do, the purpose of them.
I think that would be very helpful because we really direct residents when they're doing stuff to come to this chapter 31 to gain information, and some of them may not be as familiar with what the terminology and what design guidelines really entails. So I think that being more specific about the term design guidelines that we're talking about, very specific Secretary of Interior standards and things like that might be a better definition. Okay.
Is there a word that needs to go between commission and ensure?
Owners and the commission to ensure that projects, does that make sense? Guidelines also assist property owners and the commission to ensure that projects affecting historic resources comply.
Yeah, there needs to be a,
Transitioning.
I guess, two, ensure that
Mhm.
projects, yeah. Yeah, that needs a word. Needs a two.
All right.
So going further down, um, mostly it looks like clarity, 18 through 31 are things that you're indicating might be unnecessary or
If, as you just said, you're directing people who may not have a lot of this stuff,
right.
maybe that's a reason for keeping some of these basic definitions in the the balustrade and this. I mean, I couldn't have I know what a sash window is, but I'm not sure I could give you an official definition. So.
Well, this is part of our, been a big part of our discussion in that if we were going to include all the definitions that really would be helpful, it would blow up the chapter 31 to like, nobody would look
Yeah.
at it. And this is where maybe having a separate document that would be design guidelines, strictly design guidelines that would provide the examples and maybe visual photos or better descriptions of materials and things like that.
Yes.
That, again, where this, for this handful of elements, the mullions and muttons and balusters, and this is like nothing compared to what you'd really need, I don't think. If you were looking for guidance to deal with a rehab of a historic home or a structure. So
this document is just kind of randomly picked a few
at the time,
out
it
of
made
a lot.
sense, I think, when they were putting it together because they were dealing with Old Town. And I think
Yeah.
these were things that were kind of foremost in their mind. But again, we've come a long way since then. And we now have a variety of different kind of structures that really there would be more definitions that we would like to include, but really wouldn't make sense to throw them maybe in this location. That would be better off as a separate standalone that we could add.
And that would be broader for potentially future
Right.
districts.
And then the fact that we've all mentioned the adding a visual element, I think would really, help a lot, which you can't do with this. That's something that
it's not
not
so
appropriate
much-
for.
yeah. I mean, this is the legal document
Mhm.
that governs how we operate. And it's, the goal is to make it more understandable, more user-friendly, but it's not to provide a lot of information.
It needs a companion piece, and I think that's one of the things
Yeah.
we've talked about, maybe seeking some assistance in developing a companion piece that would
Right.
help with this.
Which we have to do.
Yeah. Any further comments on section 2? Section 31-2, I should say. No. You got anything?
Okay, 31.3.
Mm-hmm.
That's maybe something, Eloise, that we could have direct staff to kind of look into that, the term,
Number 2, the term of office.
in terms of office. So I don't know if there's any other commissions or committees that have that wording that you can only serve 2 terms, if that's the typical.
So I think the intent, I think it's fine to strike that last sentence. And whether you add more sentences or not, maybe you don't need to, because the city clerk's office told me when I asked the question that Ted had raised about the 2 terms, because that seemed to imply never again could you serve. They said that if someone has served 2 terms, they can either apply to a different board or commission for consideration, or they would be able to reapply for the same board or commission after being off the commission for a minimum of 2 years before reappointment. So, or you could add that last sentence here if you think you would want it in here. But and I'm not sure what the reference is that the city clerk's office is using, but that's what they apply to all the boards and
Okay,
commissions.
okay. Well, I would just say, just remove that last sentence, then would do what we would like to see.
Yeah, as long as it exists elsewhere.
Yeah, if that is a general rule in governing boards and committees.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, section 4 is nothing. Section 5 is pretty straightforward, just on compensation. Section 6, powers and duties of the Historic Preservation Commission, which is pretty much the bylaws. It seems like we're very closely in line with that.
Yeah, that statement that I wrote, is just an example. I think if there's some stronger language to use to tie what we do to the city's efforts, it would be good. I just wrote that and was hoping for
Well, I noticed
suggestions
that-
or.
And I appreciate that the noting the historic resources. I think that very much when people think of preservation, they think it's all old buildings or old houses, and there's a lot more to it than that. And that by having a broader scope of historic resources, it allows us to include, or at least open the door to a lot more things for consideration. So I don't know. I would be willing to add a statement like that too. I'm not sure where they would want to put something like that, but
You mean in the order of the,
well,
okay.
I don't know. Yeah.
The statement as written suggests that the whole purpose is to provide more environmentally sustainable practices.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true, or is it broader, like just historical neatness? You know what I mean? Like,
I think my idea is to get more traction for historic preservation, that we need to show a connection to like sustainability, rather than demolishing a building and carrying everything to the dump. You're adding to throwing away. You're using new materials then. And I think that is something that's really important that historic preservation does. That,
Well, it ties us to that 2040 plan.
I agree with you. It just, the statement as written sounds like that's our sole purpose.
No, I think
Yeah,
she
like
wanted to
total
add it.
goals.
no, it's just, it is
Add
one
to.
of the, it's saying, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. It would be number 15 then. You would just add it to that
I thought you meant as
section.
an intro to that section. Okay.
No, this would
Make
be,
it
I'm
like
sorry. Yeah,
15.
that would be number 15.
Okay.
And again,
Sorry, I'm stuck on the numbers.
I know. Well, it helps follow.
Well, I think as the city is redoing their, regular comprehensive plan,
Yeah.
and certainly making sustainability a piece of that, that would make
It does make sense to tie it into the
Yeah.
climate 2040, all of that for this particular commission.
Any further comments?
No, but thank you for the work that the small group did. And
Yeah, that was, well, Mary Jo did a
Mary
lot
Jo,
of
yeah.
intense reading of the stuff. Eloise, what do you think? Any further comments from staff that might be need
Well,
to
I think we
be?
need to go through 31.7 and 31.8 still, right?
That's going to be the next time. I think we've got that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we're going to do
I'm skipping.
in June. In June, we plan to do sections
That's
of
right.
section 31. We're going to be do parts 7 through 9.
Okay, I'm sorry. I
That's okay. You're
noticed
just ahead of the
that.
game.
I said it in what I sent out. I just didn't. Right. I don't have anything else.
So what I'm thinking then is we just collect the comments and the changes as we go, and then we'll ultimately have a cleaned version with everybody's comments to present as a recommendation. So.
Right.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone reading through all this. It's no easy read, that's for sure. And if you think
I appreciated it that you kept it to 3 pages.
I think we have to do it in doses.
Yeah,
Really.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. But in the big picture, this is, I think, one of the things that was brought forward is that when somebody is trying to do this and they are directed to Chapter 31, it's rather daunting to look at and how do you. So we ourselves need to be able to understand it and be able to at least make comment on it. So thank you all. All right, so we'll save the rest for later, and that puts us to item 8, Preserve Iowa Summit, coming up in June in Mason City. Has anybody given thought to going or able to go?
I think I'm going.
All right.
at
I
least
would like to make sure we get you registered this week. So that's the purpose of letting us know who is available to go. And the city does pay for your registration, and we will pay mileage and hotel costs as well. But within the budget that we have, and usually not everybody goes. So it usually works out that we have the budget we need to support anybody that is able to go.
I really regret that I will not be able to go. I will be out of town for part of that. So, but it looks to be a good one. And there's also some good, I love planning and preservation conferences because they're great tourists. They always show you the neat stuff, in the neighborhoods and stuff. So I hope others are able to consider going.
I will not be going.
I'm sorry, you go first.
I just said I will not be going.
And I have a long-standing medical appointment on the Friday afternoon, which I hate to give up.
And I can't get time off work.
Rats. So maybe
Just Mary Jo this time.
Mary Jo, maybe Matt will be able to go, who knows? Or Angie. That was something she might have been interested in that too. So hopefully we'll hear from them. How soon do you need to know?
I need to know Wednesday.
Wednesday. Okay.
I did think I'd be, if it's always the first weekend of June, I would be cognizant of that when I book my June appointments next year.
Can we send a quick reminder to people who weren't here that, just in case they,
Yes.
okay, I
Yeah,
appreciate
we
it.
will ask them.
Okay, so moving on to item 9, commission comments. I was wondering if anybody was able to go to the music walk and see the Pandatorium, have a peek at what they're doing.
I went to the music walk and I was so taken with the music that I'm ashamed to say I didn't make it into the door.
You were experiencing Main Street, huh?
Yes, the music was terrific.
I am in the same boat. I also was there, but didn't see the pen.
Didn't work your way down to the
Could you
Pandatorium?
explain it? What would?
Well, that is what the building that the History Museum purchased. And they will be bringing it forward, their ideas of expansion to the commission later this year, I believe, isn't it,
I
Eloise?
think they are thinking now to bring it in August
Okay.
as a reuse.
So it was kind of like a sneak peek, but you know what? We might get others opportunities.
Yeah.
So if we have any of the street venue things going on, they may. I know I went by there and they have some great posters on the building, of what they want to do and things.
That's the window we're talking about.
Yes, that's a good example. That
And then the
picture.
sign. How old do you suppose that Ames Pantoran sign is? Do we know?
How old is it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's been there for
Long time.
a while,
Mhm.
yeah.
That would be an element that would need maybe attention if people wanted to. It's not necessarily architectural, but
Mhm,
certainly adds to the character.
mhm.
So,
This is slightly off topic, but I noticed in the alleyway on the south side, Whiskey River has a new sign sitting back there.
interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too. It's very large.
Like a new one?
Like that style, like hanging perpendicular to the building. Yeah.
Oh,
looks new.
okay.
Well, does it match Sweet Caroline's? It's the same owner.
What it might be. It was out back of Sweet Caroline's, actually. So maybe.
Okay. So, and then there was also the other event that was occurring in Van Horn. That was the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions was doing a workshop. I don't know if anybody was able to.
I did the Zoom. I was
you
going
did?
to go,
Okay.
yeah, and I was going to comment on that. So, and kind of give you a briefing of.
Yeah.
So, back to the Panatorium building. I requested that staff schedule a site visit before the Panatorium project
Oh.
comes before us. So I don't know if that's typically done, but I think that would be very informative for the commission to get to go on a site visit before we review the project.
Especially if they're not coming till August, that's plenty of time to work out a time frame that we could maybe do that. Yeah.
Well, where I've worked before, we do site visits before the
Mhm.
meeting, just right before, like an hour before.
Oh,
So, and we did that with any major project, we'd have a site visit. So hopefully we can do that here.
Who did you request it to? The Yes,
Yeah.
our
Science
staff.
staff. Yeah.
But it was, we were at a council meeting, so I just wanted to bring it up again in case you forgot, maybe. So,
I'll pass on your request.
thank you.
So back to Van Horn.
Okay, well, it was a 9 o'clock to 4:30 meeting. It was two different sections of, the first one was on incentives and benefits of preservation. There was a session on preservation planning. And then the afternoon sessions were on disaster preparedness. And there was a planner from San Francisco that was talking about preservation of buildings from the sea rise and storm surges, which was kind of not too applicable to us, but he kind of talked about how they went about getting public participation and that sort of thing, and awareness. So that was, I was tired by then too, sitting in front of my computer watching. So I didn't take many notes on that. But the National Alliance of Preservation Commission is a national organization. They do have conferences, but they also have these workshops in states that are through the State Historic Preservation Office. But the organization has a monthly newsletter that's very informative. I have subscribed to it before. So So the next conference is in Cincinnati, July 13th to the 17th. Again, I've been to one of their conferences. They're outstanding. So anybody in professionally in historic preservation, it's a really good conference to go to. National Trust and the state conferences are more geared to volunteers, and I think, but this one is really good for professionals. uh, a consultant gave the presentation on incentives and benefits, and there are a lot of them, but it takes somebody that will do all the work, the applications, all the digging, to really make historic preservation pay financially beneficial to property owners. So, but besides the tax credits, there's preservation easements, opportunity zones, tax increment financing, low income housing tax credit, grants, CDBG funds. Let's see, there's a clean energy financing, local hotel and motel taxes, city's general fund. I guess that's it, but that's quite a bit. So I know that's something when I see something about the benefits being financial incentives, and most of those are for income producing properties anyway, but it's really, there really are a lot of things, but that the woman that presented does it as, that's what she does, is put those packages together. So she was very knowledgeable. Let's see, he talked about the federal tax credits, which I think we're a little bit familiar with. She talked about syndication, which is when they get an investor to come in and put money into the projects, and then in exchange, then they get to take the tax credit benefit. So that's a way to get a project funded too. Let's see. The Iowa Historic Tax Credit Program, that's available for residential, and it's 25%. The federal tax credit is 20%. There's other Iowa incentives. There's 4 years tax exemption for the increased valuation of a rehab property, which is, that's could be substantial. I think. Had you heard of that before?
I'm not sure I have heard of that.
Yeah, evidently, if you rehab and you add, your property value goes up $100,000, you don't pay tax on that for 4 years. So that could be
Is that for
pretty.
residential?
That might be
That's-
similar to our urban revitalization district, where we have, if it's an urban revitalization district and you do some kind of enhancement, then you're able to apply for that kind of a tax.
Exemption?
Yeah. Is that done through the city or the state then?
Pardon?
Is that done through the city?
Yes.
And okay.
Well,
Yeah.
the city and the county, because you have. county
Right,
tax.
because, right, yes, they
Right.
lose taxes on that, so. There's downtown housing grants, which that's for communities under 30,000. Enhance Iowa grants, Main Street Iowa grants, redevelopment tax credits for brownfield and grayfield sites, and I don't know that Ames has any of those.
Any what?
The brownfield and grayfield sites, like industrial sites that are,
I'm not sure.
yeah.
I'm not sure if we do. We probably do somewhere.
Preservation easements, which is, you could donate your property to, or have an easement agreement with, like, the State Historical Museum.
Do
Um,
a lot of conservation related things like that.
Yeah. So in that, it has to be, the easement has to be to the nonprofit, and then there's a federal charitable tax deduction for that. There's opportunity zones, there's tax increment financing. If the city has a TIF area, which I don't know if they have, if Ames has
Well, not for this, but
tax increment financing,
I
I
know
think
that
that
there
is.
was something at Campus Town they were trying to do, but then it got voted down.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if we do have any tips.
I thought the Lincoln Way was a TIF,
It
Yeah.
might be.
because that's how we were going to get a pool, a swimming pool.
That's right. I think you're right. I think that is a tip.
That's right. I was watching that one.
yeah. So anyway, the list goes on. I mean, there's like 10 more. Local hotel and motel taxes, I guess, can be used for financing projects. So, so let's see. There was this one session on designating historic resources. Yeah, let's see if there's anything else useful. Preservation planning. They talked about that. Talked about community input opportunities. Also, they emphasized that preservation planning should be prominent in a city's comprehensive plan, which I think it's
We have
kind of a minor thing in the Ames comprehensive plan. Oh gosh, let's see what else is. Talked about the elements of the comprehensive plan. And there's an Iowa State Code. 18B is the state law for community planning, which has a very strong wording for including historic preservation in comprehensive plans. So there's a basis for doing that. And so next time they amend the the comprehensive plan, it might be good to consider that. Anyway, it was a good meeting. I got a lot of information
Is this
from
all?
it.
Did they say, are they going to have others, or is this?
I
know,
do
another
not know.
opportunity, or-
I don't know how. I
How
don't know if they
often they-
try to have one once a year or. But yeah, it was a good session. I thought I was impressed. They had very good presenters, and so anyway, I just think we need to join that organization, the Preservation Alliance. I don't know what we need to do to get an application to. I think the membership is less than $100 a year. So,
What city was helping sponsor? Who was part of the commission?
well, the Van
Was it Cedar
Horn,
Rapids?
I
Horn?
don't
know
think
if that was
Cedar
right.
I don't think Cedar
just
Rapids
curious.
had anything. Benton County Historic Preservation Commission.
Benton County. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to research joining and making a draft application, the only question we would just need a motion by the commission that you want to do this out of your existing budget. We need to make sure there's enough budget for everything that's trying to be done. But if it's not very much money, then it's probably easy to accomplish.
Okay, I'm sure there's an online application. So,
Probably.
but I think the newsletter would be good information for all the commissioners to get. They probably would just send it to the city, the newsletter. So,
Or it may be an online thing that we could all tap into.
Mhm.
That's what I would think
Do you
that-
want to look up and bring back more information for the next meeting?
Well, I would like us to, well, I guess, do we need to have it as an
Motion?
item on the agenda, don't we, if we
Next
vote
time?
on it? So just,
Yeah, why don't we have it on the agenda?
Why don't we
next
do
time?
that?
But if you have exact information,
I'll see if I can get some information to you.
you know, if it's a clip from the website or whatever.
Yeah.
That we can
Okay.
include in the agenda.
Okay.
Any further comment, perhaps?
One more time, what was the name of that one? The National Alliance?
National Alliance of Preservation Commissions.
I'm sure this is the one that Ted has talked about multiple times.
He did.
We
Yeah.
need to be on this. We need to get on this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think it's because of his participation with the state level preservation, and knew that several communities in the state of Iowa were already participants.
And this is not the one you said is in Cincinnati in July? Is that a
No.
different one?
Or no, that is.
That is the
National, yeah.
conference in Cincinnati,
That's
yes.
the
So-
same one that was
yeah.
in Des Moines several years ago.
So what did you just attend?
A
It was
workshop.
a
A
workshop.
workshop by them.
That
okay.
was sponsored by them,
Gotcha. Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And that's why I was wondering if maybe they had other workshops that they would do during the year. I don't know how we would find out. Unless we were members, and then we would know, you know?
You can
It's,
just
uh,
sign
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
You can sign up for the newsletter without being a member. Because I'm looking right here and it's got the sign up.
Okay.
But
So-
membership, it was not much if I remember.
Perhaps then at our next meeting, we have it as an agenda item, discussion membership, moving forward on a membership with the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions, and using a portion of our budget for our membership fee. Okay.
I had a brief comment of feedback
Yes.
from Susan and I attended one of the next big thing for downtown
It was
forums. And I don't know if you saw this, it might have been, you've been away. They had 3 public forums getting input, and then they and gathered ideas, and then they discussed it with the board. And now on the downtown aimsdowntown.org website, they've listed, you click on next big thing, and there's a list of all the ideas that have come forward. And you can vote for 3 of them. And I'm assuming it's still there. I can't access it anymore because I already had my vote, and they're making sure people don't load up the voting. But there's quite a lot of interesting ideas, and
Yes.
some of which may touch on our domain a little bit. So I just wanted to share that.
So what's the website then?
Right, if you go to aimsdowntown, all lowercase, .org, click on the square that says the next big thing, and you'll see a list of the gathered ideas,
Okay.
and you can vote for 3.
Okay. It was very interesting. It was just one of the 3 that Rosemary and I had went to, and very lively discussion, I thought. So, and that's where actually I heard more about the Pandatorium, because they had members of the Ames History Museum were there at that particular one, and we were talking about what their ideas were. So that was kind of interesting too. So
And
big things coming.
what was interesting is there's a lot of ideas that came from the other 2 forums
Mhm.
that were news.
That were
Yeah.
too. So that's another good thing. Things going on.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further things people would like to throw in? Okay. Maybe we'll move on then to number 10, staff comments. Got news for us, hopefully?
Sure. Well, first thing I wanted to say before I forgot is with the Preserve Iowa Summit, you don't have to go for the whole thing. So if you found that you could go, because usually the registration cost is the cheapest part of the whole thing. Obviously, gas right now is not inexpensive. But if you're not staying overnight, if you could just go for a day, you found a day that fit your schedule and that had opportunities of things that you want to hear about,
Okay.
then please keep that in mind and just let me know right away if you would.
That's nice to know.
So everybody's probably interested in knowing where we stand with our student recruitment. Human Resources did get it posted online and through lots of different resources that the city uses. It was posted for 10 days. It closed on Wednesday last week, and we did get 12 applicants. We're in the process of reviewing those applications and scoring them. And then we will be inviting possibly 3 or 4 for an interview. And looks like that possibly would then be next week. And so we've set it up so that I'm leaving on vacation next week, and Benjamin would fill in for me. And Mary Jo indicates she's out next week. So Susan has indicated that she would be
I'll be
available. So I think that's how we're going to proceed, to try to keep it moving forward. And just see how we can expedite it as much as we can within the time frame of the gears that have to turn.
When,
Make it happen.
when the Human Resources puts together their criteria for review of the applicants, do they look at the grant itself, our application? Because we were very specific about certain, assistance that we were looking for and types of skills and things like that. But
Right.
okay,
We did look at that. I invited input, I think, from all of you maybe, or at least those on the committee.
right.
And Mary Jo did give some input on some of the qualities that we were looking for. So some of
Okay.
that got embedded into it. And then, of course, Vanessa and HR were the ones who really did the word crafting to make it all come together. So hopefully, if any of you saw that ad, you felt that it represented what we were trying to go for.
Okay. So if we could set up interviews, then we're that much closer than maybe to getting this off the ground.
Yeah, I think we'll be getting going in June.
Yeah. Is there any way that we could ask the ones that get an interview to submit a writing sample? Because
Well,
that is
I'll tell you, the way they answer their questions gives you a little bit of a hint of their writing
okay.
skills.
Okay.
And I've noticed already differentiation between some
Okay.
of them. So
Okay.
I think it's something in my scoring that I'm looking at
Okay.
how well they answer those questions, because
Okay.
Completing survey
sometimes it
forms.
seems contrived, like they're trying to make it sound lofty and
Yeah.
no substantive information there.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Good. I just want to make sure that.
Right. Right. We do need somebody that writes
Yeah.
well.
Yes. Because as a supervisor
lot
in
of
the
writing
projects,
in
it's a headache if they don't write well.
Right.
So.
Okay. Anything else we need to be aware of that you can see coming up? That
No,
Okay.
I think next month we'll have some good information on how things are going with our grant.
when do you do your next report to the
It's only
state?
quarterly, so
Quarterly. Okay.
it was due April 1st, so not for another 3 months after that.
Okay. Doke.
The end of June,
Into June.
July
would be it.
1st.
All right. Just curious. Okay. If there's anything further, I think we're ready to adjourn the meeting for the evening. A motion to adjourn.
So
Second.
Second.
Adjourn the meeting.
Thank